Hello and welcome to another one of my book reviews, and today I want to talk to you about The Handyman Method, co-written by Nick Cutter and Andrew F. Sullivan. A full disclosure, a few weeks back, actually probably over a month ago at this point, I drove up to Toronto to meet Philip Fracassi on his book tour, and I got to meet both Craig Davidson, aka Nick Cutter, and Andrew F. Sullivan, both incredibly great guys, and I wanted to read a title of both of theirs. I had been told that a great starting point for Nick Cutter was The Troop, so that was actually the last book review I did. I read The Troop and absolutely loved it, but wanting to support both authors, I decided to instead move on to The Handyman Method to get a little bit of both. I did not buy a copy of this because I had gone over my book budget, so I got this from the local library, but it was a very quick read. If you want just a nice little one sentence description, I would refer to this as Bentley Little's Amityville Shining. I mean, it's a weird conglomeration of words, but you can definitely see the influence of all of those on the Handyman Method. The Handyman Method is the story of the Sabin family who are moving into their newly built house in a soon-to-be neighborhood. It's a development that hasn't been developed yet. So they're the first house. And when they, being the father, Trent Sabin, notices a crack in the bedroom closet, he decides to fix it himself through the assistance of Handyman Method, a bunch of do-it-yourself YouTube videos under the tutelage of Handyman Hank. And, that's where you can definitely kind of see the Bentley Little influences. If you've seen any of my Bentley Little reviews, I have reviewed The Store, for example. You know that Bentley Little, despite being a very formulaic author, usually introduces something that is going to kind of seep in and bring its evil into society. In this case, the Handyman Method kind of seeps in and brings some evil into the Sabin family. But Trent is not alone. He's also there with Rita, his wife, who I'll talk about in a little bit as well. And they're also there with their son, Milo, who's very fond of Little Boy Blue videos, his own little YouTube videos that he watches that also have their own influence on him. So with that Bentley Little influence, you're going to start to see things go sour. Things are going to kind of it turns out the handyman Hank has videos to help with more than just do-it-yourself projects. He starts having videos that would help Trent in every aspect of his life. And Trent starts to kind of come under the influence of Handyman Hank, which is also, I guess, where you kind of see the Shining method, Shining references in there, where you have Jack Torrance from The Shining kind of being corrupted by the Overlook Hotel, similar to Trent Sabin here. I'm not going to lie, if you had this as your first read from Nick Cutter and Andrew F. Sullivan, you might not like it. If I had read this one first, I might not have gone on to read other Nick Cutter novels. I would definitely say start with The Troop for Nick Cutter. It gives you a great sense of his style. That's a great starting point. One thing that is to be said about the Handyman Method is that it's kind of a satire, almost in the way that Bentley Little novels can be a satire. This is a satire of the do-it-yourself mentality, kind of like the alpha male, macho mentality that Trent kind of finds his way succumbing to with the Handyman Method videos. So keep that in mind when you're reading it. One thing that I did not like, at least initially, with the Handyman Method were the characters, which is probably a very bad sign. So, like Jack Torrance in The Shining, you see him start to kind of get corrupted and kind of go off the deep end. The problem with Trent Sabin in The Handyman Method is that he's very much an unlikable character right from the first chapter, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, you know, it's one of those novels where you're kind of rooting for the spirits. You're kind of rooting for the evil to win because he's a very unlikable character. And the other characters aren't much better. Rita is very nonchalant. She's very nonplussed about the going-ons in this house. I mean, in that regard, it reminded me of the Amityville Horror. I hate to say it. If you've watched my review of the Amityville Horror, then you already know my opinion. If you haven't watched that, I didn't like the Amityville Horror. I understand where that novel is coming from, but I thought the characters' decisions were absolutely stupid. I felt the same way with the Handyman Method. There were a lot of very stupid decisions or very kind of non-reactive decisions, particularly from Rita. but from all the characters in general. However, one thing I will say, they're all broken out into parts here based on the month. I will say that part 4, that's not part 4. I was just on part 4. Why did I flip it further? Part 4, September, is where things massively improve, which is a weird thing to say when you're over halfway through your novel. I, up to this point, was not liking the novel. I was not liking the characters. I'm like, these decisions that all the characters are making are absolutely stupid. They're ridiculous. I don't like the characters. I want to see the house win. And I will say that part 4, there are twists and turns that you don't see coming. That kind of adds credence to the decisions that were made by these characters. And it adds a level of terror that did not exist in the prior chapters, in the prior parts. So if you are reading this and you are slogging through and you're like, man, I do not like these characters, I will say at least give it until the end of part 4. Read it till part 5. If part 4 doesn't convince you to keep on keeping on and finish the novel, then you probably should just stop. Because if you don't like what happens and the twists in part 4, you're probably not going to like anything else. I mean, you at that point, you are most of the way through the novel, so you might as well finish it, right? But I will say, if you hadn't read the first 180 pages and you didn't like it, and you still don't like it in part 4, you're not going to like it further on. Which, like I said, that's a weird thing to say when doing a book review. It's like, yeah, just keep powering through it. It's like one of those shows. Like, once you get past through the first 3 seasons, the show gets good. But yeah, I think it gets really good in part 4. I will say the ending isn't as strong as the ups of part 4. It's like a roller coaster. You're going to hate these characters in the start. Part 4 is going to be just absolutely crazy. The ending is definitely leaning more into the satire portion as opposed to the horror portion. But if you are a fan of Bentley Little, you should definitely check out the Handyman Method because you're probably going to like it. If you hate Bentley Little, you're probably not going to like the Handyman Method. But if you do read those, like I said, don't let that, and you don't like it, don't let it deter you from the author's other work. I haven't read anything else from Andrew F. Sullivan. Did the lights just flash here really quickly, or am I losing it? I don't know. Maybe I'm watching too much Handyman Method videos myself. Anyways, don't let it deter you from the other authors. I haven't read Andrew F. Sullivan yet, but I do have his other novel that I'm going to be reading very soon. But Nick Cutter, seriously, check out The Troop. Handyman Method, like I said, overall, not a bad novel. It definitely has a lot of tropes, of horror tropes that it, I don't want to say recycles, but reuses, including tropes from the author's own works. Trent is very similar to Kent, who is a character from The Troop, which I can only think is Nick Cutter giving a wink-wink to that alpha male type character. Also, Nick Cutter's hatred for turtles is back. If you've read The Troop and you said, I am very uncomfortable to what happens in the turtle in The Troop, then you are going to be equally uncomfortable to what happens to the turtle in the Handyman Method. I don't know what turtles did to harm Nick Cutter, but I really hope he gets over his hatred for turtles. But anyways, yeah, the Handyman Method, you can pick it up wherever books are sold. I met both authors at Little Ghost Bookshop up in Toronto, Canada. They do have a website. There are plenty of signed books, signed by both of them. Both of them are from the Toronto, Ontario area. And I'm pretty sure they probably have copies of the Handyman Method signed by both. So if you want a copy signed by both, check out the Little Ghosts Bookshop, link in the description below. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to do at least one book review a week. I've been doing 2 for the past several weeks because I have some catching up to do. And I got plenty of unboxing videos to do in between here and there. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you around next time.